It's another cold, dreary day in town. Temperature's hovering at about 37, 34 degrees, somewhere in there. And the worst part is they're talking more snow. I've heard everywhere from 1 to 3 inches, from 4 to 7 inches. And I don't want more snow. I want it to be summertime already. Or your car, or minivan, or crossover, or SUV, or monster truck, or a little grocery getter, maybe charging your battery at. On today's video, I'm going to show you an easy way to do it, along with some other battery-related tips and diagnostic procedures. Meters these days are auto-ranging, which means if you put it on the volt scale, it can detect whether it's alternating current or direct current, and it will go to either DC measurements or AC measurements. Well, since we're dealing with the battery, we want DC voltage. So, how you check your battery is just like this. Batteries have a negative terminal and positive terminal. And you simply do a number like this. And then you can see what your battery is. Hopefully it's not 0, like mine is. 12.6. Anyway, you get the idea. Bad contacts over here. You may be asking yourself, okay, I'm going to learn about batteries today, but how do I know what kind of battery that I want to use in my car? How big of a battery do I want in my car? Well, give you a little bit of insight here. The battery I bought for the big brown piece of junk, come on, focus, you piece of junk, is 750 cranking amps at 32 Fahrenheit, 32 degrees, which is right at freezing. And then my cold cranking amps is 630. On the Pontiac, if you come over and look at the Pontiac real quick, let's see here. My cold cranking amps are 770. So the battery that I have in the Pontiac here is a little bigger than what I have in the truck. So right now the Pontiac has a bigger battery than the truck, I believe. Yeah, because the truck's CCA is 630 and the Pontiac CCA is 770. So just as a rule of thumb for me, I try to buy the biggest battery I can. After all that talking aside, I feel like I just talked my way through an essay. You're probably wondering, well, how do I check my battery for just current voltage? Right there. Okay, you take your positive lead to the positive lead on the battery, negative to negative. Don't crisscross them. You put your meter on DC volts, and that's what my battery is currently charged at, 12.6, which is a fully charged battery. Anywhere from 12.6 to about 11.2, I would say, is a fully charged battery, or going to have enough of a charge in it that it will crank and start the vehicle. Before we get too carried away measuring battery voltages and doing some tests on a battery, let's talk about digital multimeters for a minute. Now, I'm sure all of my subscribers know how to use one of these, but the scale that we're going to be using today is volts, where my thumb is right there. Since this is an auto-ranging meter, it will detect whether we're measuring AC or DC volts. Or, since I've got the button up here, I can put alternating current or DC. When you're doing battery tests, you want direct current because that's what the battery is. And that's what you'll be measuring for. The battery is parasitic draw. Not from any computer on the vehicle. Now, I don't have to worry about that on this truck because this truck's old enough that it really doesn't have a lot of computers on it. However, the Pontiac over there has computers because it's 3 years newer. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Parasitic draw on a battery is this. Battery acid gets on the top of this battery from here to here. And it will actually discharge itself because the acid on top of the battery is making connection between the positive and negative terminals on the battery and completing a circuit. so the battery can discharge itself. Now, the way you check for that is in milliamps. And I don't remember what the standard is, what the rule of thumb is, or the allowable amount of milliamps you can have. I think it's 20.2 milliamps. I'm not sure. We're going to set our meter for 4 milliamps, which is not even half a volt. And we're going to stick the positive terminal on the positive battery and just run the needle across. You can do this on your own battery, but I'm going to have to turn the camera off to do this because I'll need 2 hands. You can see when I started out doing the parasitic draw test that I had very little voltage coming across the top of my battery to discharge it. I put the negative one on the post, the negative one, positive one on the post like that, and then I took the negative one and I started right down there and I just started dragging it across the top of the battery, watching my meter. And we're going to go back to doing that and see if it ever goes past 0.2 of a volt. I just ran my meter lead across the top of my battery and it never got above 0.2 of a volt, so I'm good. So now you may be asking yourself, well, I did this to my battery and I had almost a volt worth or more of parasitic draw across the top of my battery. So how do I clean it? How do I neutralize the acid and get it off the top of my battery? Well, the way I've always done it is baking soda and water. I'll go into the kitchen and get one of my mom's good cooking jars, fill it with hot water, and then put a liberal amount of baking soda in, stir it all together, and then I'll come out here and just dump it on top of the battery. And it will fizz up and do what it does, neutralizing the battery acid. That's a cheap redneck way to do it. It may not cost you any more than a couple bucks. Or you can go to a parts house and get battery acid detector or battery acid cleaner. Now what I have in the garage there is a corrosion inhibitor. The battery acid detector will turn a certain color from like pink to yellow, whatever, I guess, to let you know if there's battery acid on your battery. And then the cleaner will be one color, and it'll foam up and do all sorts of good things as it reacts to the acid in the battery, on top of the battery, not in the battery, cleaning it off and neutralizing it so you don't have any of that parasitic draw going on. And then you just come in with clean water and you rinse your battery off and you're set. Now, before I bought this Bonneville, a girl was driving it and taking care of it. Now, I'm not saying that girls aren't capable of taking care of cars. But, for example, my mother. Any little thing goes wrong with that Buick of hers, and she just goes into orbit about it. Because she doesn't understand anything on the car, how it works, or what its purpose is. So, don't kill me when I say that some girls, and guys, I guess, don't know how to take care of their vehicles. But that's not what I'm talking about here. The next section in this little tutorial is how you measure charging voltages. Now, there are a couple ways that I do this. On the Pontiac, because I think it's got a crappy alternator and a junky battery, I use this thing. Now, it's UXW Bill's, but he doesn't use it anymore. And more often than not, it's lost, so he can't use it. So when I discovered it, I just pilfed it and put it in this car. This car usually charges from anywhere to like 12.3 all the way up to 14.5, which is normal. It's normal for their car. Normal. That's normal charging range from like 12, 13. No, not 12. From like 13 to 15 volts. Yes, it is cold out here, and my hand is freezing. That's why I'm stuttering so bad. The other way you can check charging voltage is with your digital multimeter. Put it back on volts. Make sure it's a DC volts. You don't want AC. And what you do is you come over here to your vehicle, car, truck, SUV, whatever. They're all the same charging wise. You start her up. Now, some of you have gauges in the dash that tell you the charging voltage. Well, the gauge in this truck's kind of shot to hell. In this truck that's so junk that it wouldn't survive a cold night without having to be recharged. So, of course, in our history, we drove the truck till it fried the alternator. Because if your battery's not right, it's going to eventually damage your alternator. So my dad went out and bought some cheap Chinese piece of junk alternator, and it wasn't right. It wouldn't charge a battery. It had no regulation. So we got another one. And I think we had to go through 2 alternators to finally get a good one. That's it right there. And it does okay. I mean, it charges the truck and runs the light bar whenever I have it on. So, you want to check charging voltage, but you don't have one of these. So you take your digital multimeter, and you take your leads, positive on positive, negative on negative. You come over to your battery. I need an assistant, is what I need. I'm putting out 14.5 volts, and that's normal. So let's go check my cigarette adapter with this gadget and see what I'm putting out in my cigarette adapter. That's my emergency fund down there. There was one time I had almost 60 bucks in there in change. Now it looks like there's 2/10 volts of a drop, which is okay because when we measured it on the multimeter, we were measuring it directly from the alternator going into the battery. When we're measuring it in the cigarette lighter in the cab of the truck, you have to go through a lot of wiring. Well, that wiring is going to make some voltage drop. A little bit's okay. Excessive, you got a problem that you need to look at. So we checked the charging voltage in the truck. Now let's go check it in the Pontiac. About the same, 12 something. I can't really run the camera and measure the battery voltage at the same time because I'm not too good at it. I need more hands if I'm going to be doing that. I'd love to be an octopus. Anyway, we're going to cheat and use this method because that's the easiest way to do it in this car. So plug it in, it initializes itself, saying about 12.2 or so. It has these 3 little lights on it. I don't pay any attention to those. I just go by what it's telling me on the screen. So 12.2 is a fully charged battery, I'm going to say. And then on the back of this thing there's a little scale. 12.6 fully charged, 12.4 75%, 12.2 50%, and 12 25%. Well, I think they're being a little conservative with that scale because I've known vehicles to start on batteries that said like 10.9, 11 volts. They may have been a little slow, like the pink Buick over there, but they started. Anyway, the last and final thing that I'm going to do is we're going to check the water level in a battery. That is very important. As I'm sure you guys remember, when we started the Cadillac, it wouldn't start. So my dad hooked a charger on it, and that was kind of a mistake because when he did that, he didn't check the water content in his battery, and he ended up frying the battery. Now, a conventional automotive battery has 6 cells, okay? 1.2 volts per cell. So 1.2 times 6 is 12.6. So, look in those cells, and you can kind of see the water. If your battery's low, fill it up to just above the plates in the battery, and then you'll be set. And yes, I used an ASE certified tool to open the cap on the battery. You want to make sure that's back in place so it doesn't come off and spill battery acid all over the place. When you're working with batteries, never ever short them because they can explode, they can shock you, and generally make your day unpleasant. So, another safety pointer is, for safety glasses. I knew a kid that was working on his lawnmower, okay? And he dropped his box end wrench across the top two terminals of his battery, and the battery exploded, throwing battery acid all over the place. Well, he raced to the mirror to see his face, and he realized that he still had his glasses on, his safety glasses on, and the battery acid was attacking them instead of his eyes. So, be safe, wear safety glasses, don't short circuit your batteries, and you'll live happily ever after. I'll get the keys out of this thing so I don't lock it in there. Anyway, any questions or comments about batteries, feel free to ask me. I may not if I left anything out, please feel free to comment on it in the comments below. I was kind of in a hurry and cold and I wanted to get it done, so if you have any questions or you don't understand something, let me know and I'll do my best, along with your extra will, to answer your question.